Forspoken is not nearly as cringy as that trailer made it out to be.
I'm seeing freaking dragons, and oh yeah, I'm talking to a cuff!
Okay, that's quite enough of that. A diamond in the rough would be a better way to describe it, as I found out when I got the lowdown on what it's like to get hands-on with Forspoken. I worked with Martin Robinson, editor-in-chief at Eurogamer.net on this preview, as he got to play the game and interview Forspoken's Takafumi Terada, co-director, Rusa Jakayo, the cinematic artist, and Reo Matsuno, creative producer. So this is 5 reasons Forspoken won't be cringe, coming from someone who's actually played it and heard the banter between Cuff and Frey for themselves. See what you think. If you've seen that trailer in its entirety, first of all, I'm so sorry you had to go through that, and secondly, I'm sure it entered your mind that, wow, having Cuff and Frey fence through endless banter might get on my wick after a while. Fans of silence or less auditory overstimulation, I can 100% sympathise with that, and so can the developers. When asked about Cuff and Frey's back and forth, Terada clarified that you can alter the frequency that they talk to each other in the accessibility menu. Obviously, we've put a lot of effort into that dialogue and the character building through the conversations they have there, so we really want people to pay attention to that and hope people enjoy it. But at the same time, we do understand that there is a need there depending on how you play the game, which is a relief for some, to be sure. Sometimes you just want to play a game without having to keep track of conversations happening in the background, which is completely fair. Each to their own. Jakayo wanted to make it clear that just because there's banter doesn't mean the whole of Forspoken's dialogue is flippant. He went on to say that there are, of course, emotional scenes and very serious scenes in the game, so we have made sure to tone the banter down for those kinds of moments too. The repartee between Frey and her Cuff, voiced by what sounds like Paul Bettany's The Vision, that familiar, stuffy, stereotypical English sidekick bouncing off of the sparkier, spunkier Frey, does drone on a little too often. We'll be the first to admit that. However, it is actively enjoyable. Promise. If you're okay with Aloy's constant commentary in Horizon, which I definitely am, the most pertinent analogue of what's being attempted here in terms of tone and target audience, to be honest, then you'll be just fine with Forspoken. Forspoken is an open world that's an absolute pleasure to spend time in, and coursing through its veins is parkour. Magical parkour, specifically. The core design concept of Forspoken was to make it a fun place to use the magical parkour abilities at your disposal. Pretty much the whole of its geography and the terrain is created with that in mind, with Terada specifying that the distances, how far apart things are based on your speed and parkour abilities, the different heights of the terrain, and much more are all aligned to make sure you can use those parkour abilities and treat the world like the movement playground it is. Terada told us that behind the scenes, the very first phase of the development was creating some fairly realistic parkour stuff that anyone could do in the real world. They took that as a base to work from and started adding in fantasy aspects, with each move having kind of magical elements to make it unique and different. For example, high-speed movement, typically necessary for parkour, or successful parkour at least, transitioned into Frey being able to run across water or climb across things with a fluidity and weightlessness that anyone who's done bouldering can envy. It's all about finding ways that our real-world parkour naturally transitions into a fantasy landscape and, by the sounds of it, it's done pretty well. Like the combat system, you can improve your parkour via Forspoken's busy skill trees, which unlock when you complete in-game challenges, climb to a certain height to unlock an improved leap, or attack enemies while performing magical parkour to boost your damage. Basically, the way it works is that rather than depending on XP, Forspoken encourages experimentation out on the field rather than straight up grinding for enough points to unlock more branches of a skill tree. The main takeaway is that the entire movement system of Forspoken is very deep. There's a lot to it. There are so many options that the possibilities apparently seem almost endless. Forspoken's battle system has one core defining feature, namely the fact that there's a massive variety of different magical spells you can use. That variety was a very important part of the development, as by giving the player so many different options, you can customize the combat in whatever way you want. Having over 100 different abilities was very much set down at the very start of development, and was borne in mind throughout the whole of the creation of the game's battle system. On top of that, combat is combined with high-speed movement from the magical parkour, with those two elements coming together to make the system very unique. When it comes to what those 100 different spells actually are, it's pretty predictable. You've got the obvious things like close-range magical attacks called impact attacks, as well as longer-range magical attacks, and then there's automatic attacks, which are a passive ability that attacks for you, with all kinds of different options there. After getting hands-on with the spell system, that promise of freedom is fully realised, so you can either play tactically or, honestly, just spam enemies with attacks. Support spells are on the left bumper button with attack spells on the right bumper, showing that you're kind of expected to use both in whatever weighting you wish. To give you a taste of a few of the options the spells have on offer, among them are ones that allow you to summon fiery armies and rings of fire in which your attack level is raised. So, a lot of fire. Matsuno says of Forspoken that its big goal was to create a new IP that could stand alongside other great franchises like Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. When it comes down to it, Forspoken does feel very Final Fantasy 15. You can set up a camp wherever you wish, and it has the same floaty, fluid combat. There are more permanent bases that you can rest at or craft healing items and upgrades at, though if you prefer to shun civilization, then rest assured, camping out in the wild is very similar, allowing you to access the same features. I don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to be shunning civilization. When there's so many sights to see, why the hell would I want to be among other people? The demo we got our hands on with was a bespoke area where the story was, unfortunately, off limits. Instead, we were given a large open area to explore, with a handful of small objectives, mobs, and a couple of mini-bosses to take down. From our time in that demo, we can tell you a few things. There are fast travel towers which have to be reached to unlock the rest of the world, very Assassin's Creed, and while you're on your way there, you'll run, quite literally, into optional enemies and encounters, like a mutant alligator bastard in a swamp, or a high-level boss hovering over a camp and protecting a new nail design. Oh yeah, by the way, perks are unlocked by getting new designs for your nails. Frey's build depth is crazy deep, as in addition to your gear, your nails are a distinct part of each build, with the ability to paint each fingernail a different pattern, with each pattern bestowing specific effects. I absolutely fucking love that. I'm gonna start designing my own custom Forspoken press-ons right now. This is where I dump on you all the stuff that I couldn't neatly fit into the other sections, so get ready for a pick and mix of information. One chest is blocked via a lock-picking puzzle that's basically Bioshock's pipe shuffling minigame. Simple, yes, but effective, while also being an excuse to play Bioshock again, which God knows I would never refuse. What we can say in terms of slight negatives about Forspoken is that traversal could be more engaging, as despite the parkour areas, it does feel like you're sort of skimming across the world like a magic ice skater. Granted, that does sound sweet, but still, more engagement with the world while travelling wouldn't go amiss. And that's 5 reasons why Forspoken won't be nearly as cringy as you think. What do you think of Forspoken so far? Do you like the look of it? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, thanks very much, and don't forget to like and subscribe to Eurogamer as we have a new video out almost every single day. Now I'm gonna go and start painting some press-ons in the hope that they give me special abilities like Freya, and if they don't, at least they'll look good. So, I'll see you lot next time.
Let's finish this.